the difference between a scent that's that shouts and projects, and the other one that's very subtle, it's that one is shouting and announcing itself, where the other one is being discovered. The more you project the same fragrance all the time, the less of an interesting person you become for people around you.
This is Skin Talks, the podcast where we go deeper than skin, products, and trends and explore the conversations that actually matter in health, beauty, wellness, and confidence.
We're a mother-daughter duo and the founders of Boutique Skin Envie. After years inside the industry, we've learned that health is never just about what you use. It's about everything you digest, how you think, how you live, what you eat, how you move, what you put on your skin, and how you feel in your own body.
If you're looking for insight, honesty, and a fresh perspective on the future of health, beauty, and wellness, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it.
Skin Talks podcast by Boutique Skin Envie, hosted by Beate and Natascha.
On today's episode, we had the honor of welcoming back Mike Rozbih from Lescento, which is a Montreal-based fragrance company. We sell this brand on Boutique Skin Envie, and we absolutely love it. On today's episode, we dove into the history and psychology of fragrance, how it evokes so much emotion in us, and how we're attracted to fragrance, how we're unattracted to it, and ultimately how fragrance is one of the most impactful and important senses that we have. Mike is so passionate and knowledgeable about fragrances, and it was just such a lovely conversation. We hope you enjoy it just as much as we did. So welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Mike, welcome back to Skin Talks. We're so happy to have you back. It's been a minute since you've been on the last episode with us. But what we wanted to get into today was really talking about fragrances and the psychology of fragrances, which is a really interesting subject. But before we get into that, I really wanted to get into what is the history of fragrance. Where did it start? Like, give us a whole rundown on where it comes from.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure. And history, just to make it very brief. So fragrances originally were a symbol of status, luxury, and opulence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not everybody could afford fragrances long time ago, hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
And then if we just separate into three different, eras, and then slowly fragrances were mass marketed, right? And in the 1900s, fragrances started becoming very much so as something that you're following the crowd. So if someone has it, I should have that too. If somebody has that smell, I should have that smell too, So the history is very, you can write books on it.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it is kind of went from a symbol of status to following the crowd. And then there was, the explosion of designer perfumes back in, 1990s and 2000s. And this was the era where everyone was following what was thought to them, like what was given to them for them to just follow and smell like everyone else.
To seduce, and I guess in a way.
To seduce and just be part of the crowd. And
Yeah.
the comfort back then was to smell just like everybody else, and just follow the trends. And now slowly, as we moved into the new era, what's happening is that everyone is looking for a fragrance that is an extension of their personal identity. So now there's an explosion of, the niche fragrance industry is doing very fine, and people are moving away from crowd pleasers, mass marketed, accessible by everyone, to something that resonates, with them and with their personality and, different facets of their personality, their lifestyle and whatnot. So this is where we are.
Yeah.
So briefly, that's kind of the history of
so
that.
real evolution where it began. But like when you go back to hundreds of years ago, I would imagine, and I don't know because I'm not an expert in this, but I would imagine that people found ways through maybe flowers or different ways to be able to smell good, right? Like it must have been essential oils and different
It
things
was
that.
different things. I mean, if you go back to like the Egyptian times, the Egyptians, I forgot the name of the flower that was the main scent. So they have their own distillation process, and there was scents were very simple, and they were just one note. It was just
Yeah.
rose or just
Yeah.
a flower or something like that. So back in the history again, it was still accessible by the people of the with opulence, and the kings and the queens and
Okay,
the
so it was a
bourgeois
status symbol, like you said.
status symbol. But in the same time, fragrances also played a role to at one point to stop body odor from
Also, yeah.
to just
camouflage.
mask that, to camouflage
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, makes sense.
that's kind of to answer your question was
It's a big story around fragrances because they have such an impact on our lives, right? Somehow, like the fragrance speaks thousands of words in its own way. Yeah.
Which kind of leads us into the question, like, what is it about the scent that allows invokes emotion? Like, what is it about the scent that, like, let's say reminds you of something, or how does emotion get evoked by scent?
So scent is it's very powerful, right? So when you smell a scent, it bypasses any logical or any processing, like the sense of sight, or taste, or anything like that will be processed by your brain, where scent is sent directly to your limbic system. And this is where it connects, your brain connects it, or rather, just to simplify it, the brain's emotional reservoir, where a lot of things are stored in your subconscious memories, everything, right?
Feelings.
Experiences, and the scent, your brain subconsciously associates that scent with everything that forms you, like growing up, for example, right? You have your family rituals during which you can smell different things. It could be cultural food. It could be the environment you lived in. You could have lived, I mentioned this in the past, on an island, right? And you're more drawn to floral or fruity notes, or in Canada, you're more drawn to woody, musky, those type of notes. So the scent associates your first thing it does, it associates, it connects directly to those feelings and emotions. And you might start feeling happy by smelling the scent without knowing why are you feeling happy. And that's why often enough people, when they smell a new perfume or a scent, way before their logical explanation of why they're feeling that way, they already had the feeling. So it's embedded deeply in your brain. So you feel something way before you can explain what it was, right? It's like the scent makes you smell good. Going back to grandma's example, for example, your grandmother used to bake apple pies with cinnamon. So these were good memories not embedded in your brain. So what happens is that you smell a fragrance that has a note of apple or cinnamon and all that together, and all of a sudden it makes you, it's comforting. It makes you happy without you even really, it takes you a bit of time to really connect that, or maybe not at all, to those good memories you had at grandma's house when she baked the
yeah, it really does. It does. It's the smell of your sheets. It's the smell of baking. It's
everything.
The smell of,
Just walking into
I know. I get
home and smelling something that reminds you of somebody.
Yeah,
or
I can
somewhere
feel
you've been.
myself often throughout the day.
Yeah.
I have it. I get triggered by scent all day long. I think I'm very sensitive to it.
Everybody does, without knowing or not knowing.
If you're
does.
walking down the street and you pass a bakery and you smell bread, like you get hungry, and then it brings you back to something of the past, and it's just and I think that there's also been some regulations around scent also, because scent can be very manipulative in terms of business. I've heard of that before, like, when you walked into maybe banks back in the day, or you walked into certain kinds of businesses years ago, they would lure you in somehow through scent.
100%,
Whereas,
yes.
also there's some places where you walk into which will throw me off. I'm like, I gotta leave immediately because of scent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like when certain
so
places.
this is, the same scent could have a good effect, a positive effect on someone else. So this is because it is, again, being connected directly to your memories, and these memories are not always comforting, right, or
No,
whatnot. So
exactly.
to answer your question, the reality is that everything, whether it's food, the cosmetic industry, and so many other industries, it's chosen on purpose. Cardamom, for example, it's one of the notes that is often used in spas because it has a very calming effect. So often enough, when people smell a perfume that has cardamom note in it, they always say that, oh, it reminds me of spas. But the reality is now your brain is associating the cardamom note with that main note that a lot of these, spas are using.
Yeah, same with eucalyptus too, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Or like citrus is very invigorating, right? So if you want to wake somebody up in the morning, if you have like essential oils of let's say
Orange
or
or-
lemon
yeah.
or grapefruit, things that stimulate the brain to be more like alive somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then things like, which I don't love so much, I have to be honest, but lavender is known to calm,
I
or
don't
like you
love
said,
lavender
cardamom.
either.
No.
I find it's an overused scent a little bit.
In Canada, yeah.
In Canada, right? It's interesting because you talked about that before. Canada, you said, had more wood in the notes, or people are
Is that
more
because
attracted.
it's like wintry, or like what is
so
the reason?
so the problem, I think, with lavender, I mean, I personally don't like the smell of lavender pure. It is that in the Canadian market, it is all often used in its purest form. So it is not used. You might find lavender as part of it, as a note in fragrances, and love the fragrance.
Yeah.
But in its pure format, when it's overused, you smell it in stores, boutiques,
Yeah.
everywhere, then
Yeah.
it's just overpowering,
Yeah.
and you just don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think a lot of candle companies and companies that have those types of, they're strong, heavy scent
Yeah.
companies. A lot of people love that, but I find for me that is very confusing to my mental state.
Yeah, the new generation is totally moving away from that, and that's what is an explosion of, niche fragrances
That's good.
worldwide.
Because like I can't handle like apple cinnamon crisp candles.
Candles,
It
yeah.
freaks me out.
Yeah.
Or like even there's one thing I was talking during this Christmas, everyone's like, oh, but because I had a fake tree, which I was living in an apartment, and I'm like, yeah, but I really miss the smell of pine, like pine tree, like a real Christmas tree. It's such a beautiful smell.
And you
Like, oh,
purchased
just
one.
get it, just I'm gonna do it next year. But they're just like, just get a pine candle, and I'm like, I would never buy a pine candle because like the smell of pine through a candle and it's like not real would give me a headache.
Yeah.
Right?
Which
But
brings
so many
us
people
to
do, and I'm like,
which brings us to the composition and the chemicals that are used.
yeah, which
in
we
these
spoke about
scents,
before
right? Yeah.
we started this episode. So let's get into that because there is two different kinds of fragrances, from my understanding, natural and chemical. How does what's the difference? Let's get into the composition of it.
So the reality is that there's not only two types of, as it's marketed online, everybody talks about it on social media, that this is toxic, this is not. There's not really
hormone disruptors
yeah,
and
so
endocrine
it is
disruptors.
so there's many other things that can
Yeah.
disrupt your hormones and whatever it is, but reality is it's not really black and white that you can say or the natural ones and the chemical ones, right? So we were just discussing this before. There are many organic notes, that you can have in a fragrance that in excess could be very harmful to you because they have active ingredients, right? In the same time, there are a lot of IFRA approved molecules, which are synthetic notes that are approved and recognized by the FDA, by Health Canada, by European Union, all that, to be safe within limits. Now, when it comes to the composition of purely natural perfumes, will have less effect on you in terms of not having any chemicals in them, but it doesn't guarantee that it's totally harmless.
Yeah.
And the reality is, what is really harmful in fragrances are anything, chemicals that are used for projection, for example, certain types of aldehydes, parabens, phthalates, UV filters, which are chemicals that are used to, to protect the fragrance from, UV rays and add to its longevity and whatnot. And then, you have the bunch of other chemicals, and also the mass produced fragrances, they use very inexpensive alcohol, if it's an alcohol based perfume, and then they have to add additional chemicals to mask the smell of alcohol. So just to summarize that, there's so many different areas within the fragrance industry where you have, the purely natural ones. But a purely natural one, again, like saffron, for example, it is. I was just reading about it that I don't know, 2 mg of milligrams of saffron taken for after, if there's anyone going through depression, will help. It's almost as good as antidepressants. But in the same token, if you start taking a full spoon of saffron one day, it is going to totally destroy your gut microbiome. It is going to create hyperactivity, and it's going to be very harmful. So notes in perfumes, although organic, are not fully harmless, right? But in the same token, in the same time, the designer fragrances have many chemicals in them, so they are more on the harmful side. Where
because it's more mass production rather than
exactly
fresh batches, and I have a hard time with the whole mass market in fragrances. I find it's like way too much and way overstimulated, and like I can't get over how many different fragrances there are, and
thousands.
How do you even begin to choose what is right for you?
They're sold more based on marketing, and branding, rather than the actual identity of the scent.
Yeah.
Where, as I was mentioning before, when it comes to niche industry, it's the total opposite, where this is when, the focus is to have an identity per fragrance. And you can have a designer perfume that a celebrity launches, and then they pump in a few $1 million into marketing of
and everybody's
social
wearing
media,
it.
and everybody's wearing it, everybody's buying it without even not liking it. It's the that effect of believing that something is good because
It's
everyone
popular.
else is using,
because it's trending.
Because it's trending. Well, that's what everything that goes into.
That's our entire
industry.
It's how everything works. But I just want to go back to the natural versus chemical for a second, because we talk about it all the time, Tash. We talk about
even in skincare.
Skincare, people are this big trend of clean beauty. Well, what does clean beauty even mean? Like, it's
or
just
DIY,
a kind, like doing something.
Triggered.
And if you take lemon juice or grapefruit juice in a pure format and you put it on your skin, you're going to wind up in a pretty challenging situation.
Exactly.
It's not good for you. So really, but it's filtering through all of that, because we have so much information accessible to us today, and so many different opinions that are being thrown at us. It's really trying to understand what is the right, like, what is the best thing for us. And what I'm understanding is this doesn't necessarily mean that chemicals or mass-produced fragrances are bad for you, because they're not 100% natural.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. So, I mean, the mass-produced fragrances mostly are bad for you.
They are.
Well, yeah, but
Okay.
I'm talking about you can smell it. They all have that chemically DNA that follows after a while, and then you spray it on, and they're produced to project and last long on your clothing, to the point that you can spray it on your jacket, and after 3 days, if you don't like the scent, you're like, I have to bring it to dry cleaner. I can't stand the smell. It's making me nauseous, right? So some of these mass-produced fragrances have up to 90, 120 different chemicals in them. So to really understand that, the two parts to what you mentioned, one of them is the with the proliferation of social media and all these opinions, and everybody's just follows, oh, this is good for you. Let's, like chia seeds, for example, right? Or too much of it is not good for you.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time that turmeric was great for your health, right? And you would see all these people at like 15 or something. I used to live downtown. I used to see everyone walking around with, bowls filled with yellow water. The reality is you don't understand that turmeric, you need to take it with, it needs to be warmed up just a bit, active ingredient to be activated, and you need to include oil, and then you have to add black pepper for absorption. So again, using that example, is just following trends, right?
Yeah.
People are
I
following
need to
trends.
reduce my inflammation, so I'm going to do this. I need to do
Yeah.
this, so I'm going to do that, you know,
People
and
have,
just
yeah. So to answer that, it's logic. Logic is the most important thing, only because there are chemicals in it doesn't mean it's bad for you.
yeah.
Doesn't mean like when it comes to cosmetics, but it's just knowledge. There's many different places you can learn about these things very quickly, of what is good, what is not, whether it's fragrances, cosmetics, and whatnot, and just using purely logic. Obviously, if you walk into a pharmacy and you pick up a fragrance or something off the shelf, or one of these beauty products that is mass produced and everybody's grabbing onto, and that's why a lot of, most probably you encountered that many were not used to it. They asked the question, why is this cream $180?
Yeah.
What they don't understand is what went into it to produce that. So that same thing applies to niche fragrances.
100%, yeah.
Instead of just creating the formulated based on chemicals, that is fraction of the cost of mixing the approved molecules and organics. You can create something. So it's logic, and understanding how things are made.
I think that we forget that sometimes, the logic, to take the logic or the curiosity around doing more research just before we
And
automatically follow.
Don't follow.
We have a follow culture.
Yeah.
We see that a lot in everyday life in many different areas, especially in this world today.
Yeah.
We do want to fit in somehow, and I think people also look for the quick fix and the kind of miracles on a lot of things. So without doing the research behind, I'm going to, if I buy this or if I do this, then I'm going to be.
Exactly.
Instead of taking a step back and
we are conditioned that way. We are conditioned that way. I mean, through media, through news for generations after the Second World War. There was a time, I mean, if you take the example of a hunter needed to get out in the morning, get out there, hunt a rabbit or a deer, whatever it was, and go through all that trouble at the end of the night to be able to have a meal, right?
Yeah.
So if that is logic, if that is something that we have to absorb and understand on our own, whether it's news or, understanding what we are using, what we are eating, what we are putting on our skins, nowadays, for decades we've been conditioned to just have the digested food pumped into our stomach, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what it means is that they just follow. You see a video that says chia seeds good, okay, let me go for chia seeds. And then tomorrow it's matcha is good. Now the age of matcha, right? A lot of people, they don't even understand it's green tea, and in a lot of cultures it's embedded and they've been drinking green tea forever. But now they believe that not only it's a trendy thing, but also it's good for you. And I had somebody recently drinking matcha, and asked her, I said, so you're drinking matcha? I said, do you know what is matcha? Just asked a portion. She had no idea. It's good for you. So it is, so logic, to simplify it, logic is the most important thing in any decision you make in life, especially choosing what you eat, choosing what you put on your skin and your body, and logic is fueled by educating yourself, right? So you need to have the facts, you need to spend some time educating yourself if you're interested in something, and that helps you to make a better decision.
Yeah, I love that. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah,
which
is why we have these episodes.
Why we have these conversations. I wanted to talk about two things. The first thing, I've often heard that certain essential oils, natural fragrances, I don't know if that's the right word for it, is really dangerous for animals. And do you know anything about that at all? Because I've heard you shouldn't be using certain candles in your house because the smells are not good, or certain plants and flowers are really bad for cats
100%.
and dogs.
This is going back to exactly what I mentioned before. It's only because it's organic doesn't mean it doesn't have any negative effects on you. Many organic things and things that you eat, they have, active ingredients, and then they could be very bad for you. Like garlic is good for you, but try to eat like a kilo of garlic, what's going to happen to you?
You're gonna kill your stomach. You're
Exactly. Yeah. So same thing with animals. Obviously, animals are not humans, and they're not used to certain things. You know. For example, patchouli. You might have dogs that are allergic to patchouli, and then there are different types of pests, different types of animals. Each of them is bred differently, different sensitivity. Some of them have breeding problem. Look at the French bulldog, for example. It was bred to look cute, like a teddy bear, right? But then they have a lot of problem with breeding and the snore off and all that. So all these things affect, So yes, the answer is yes. It is going to affect. Even if it's natural or chemical, it has an effect on animals.
You mentioned something before. I just want to bring it back quickly. How you said like there's like the mass market fragrances, they last forever on you. But I remember having a conversation with you the last time, and you saying that fragrance shouldn't actually, like when somebody smells your fragrance, they shouldn't be smelling it again after a certain amount of time. Doesn't your scent like register the smell and then not smell it anymore? Do you know what I'm talking about?
You're talking about when you get used to, So this is called olfactive fatigue.
Yeah.
So olfactive fatigue is when your brain, again, scent is very, very powerful. And we're going to discuss about cosmetics as well. So your brain takes in all these smells. That's why, the niche fragrance, again, industry is picking up because all the artists create such unique scents. So your brain is used to certain smells, right? And then when you smell a new fragrance or new scent in anything, it kind of absorbs it. And after a while, it's olfactive fatigue, almost like a computer, an AI, control computer that says, okay, now I don't need to put any energy or effort into recognizing this scent because now it has become part of the daily ritual, or I'm smelling it all the time.
Okay.
So that is, and then there's the other part to fragrances. That if you're interested, we can discuss about how everyone is moving towards more subtle scents.
Yeah,
and what is
I would love to know that.
I have this one memory of somebody in university who smelled like I knew she was around because I smelled this vanilla scent that it was like a spray, like those body sprays. It wasn't even like a perfume.
I don't love that so much, I have to be honest.
And I would be like, she would walk by and I'd be like, oh, it's this one girl. And then I'd go to the bathroom. I'd be like, she was just in here. She must have sprayed half the bottle. But I want to talk about more subtle. And also reminds me, like, that somebody mentioned that in Japan, if you smell, like if, let's say, like,
it's offensive.
It's offensive.
Yeah, and that has been part of Japanese culture because they respect each other's space.
Yes.
And they understand that scent plays such an important role. So scent is really an invisible thing that exists within a space between you and those around you, right? So to understand that, and now why everybody's moving more towards subtle scents is that originally everybody wanted to project something, and have that projection and whatnot. But the psychology behind it is that the more you project the same fragrance all the time, the less of an interesting person you become for people around you. Subconsciously. So without them knowing, you become a less of an interesting person. And that's why I always recommend that every person needs to also educate themselves when it comes to fragrances, to have a wardrobe of fragrances. Just think of fragrances as or any scent, even in cosmetics, as part of your invisible wardrobe that people feel, and it connects to their emotions subconsciously without them knowing, without you knowing it. So what you're explaining is that it's that continuous projection of the same scent that becomes annoying. I mean, you most probably don't like it, or even if you liked it, over time it just becomes annoying, right? So it's now when it comes to subtle scents, you wanted to know why people are moving more towards subtle scents. I find that the new generation has reached a certain level of maturity, believe it or not, compared to the old generation. And one of them, the difference between a scent that shouts and projects, and the other one that's very subtle. It's that one is shouting and announcing itself, where the other one is being discovered.
I love
Like
that.
there's a curiosity
So
around.
again, psychology is that, as you know, we love when we discover something rather than something that's imposed upon us. So even within that space, let's say you smell good, you're wearing a very nice fragrance, or cosmetic you're wearing smells good, it's not too strong, and it is something, I get a whiff of it just briefly, but it's not continuously on a dinner table projecting, you know.
Yeah,
It's
you're not
in your
sitting there.
face.
It's
Onto
It's like
me.
somebody yelling at you all night
So
long,
it all
talking in your face.
Exactly. So
You
it
know?
all almost becomes like a chaser. And the reason why people are subconsciously going again niche fragrances, things that are, you know, fragrances that are subtle, is because they are being discovered and not, you know, they're not imposed on other people. So not only it has a good effect on you, but it also, going back to the Japanese culture, it shows that you, as a person, you have the elegance of respecting other people's spaces, and the space is not just the physical, what we see, the room. The space is also, you know, just like someone who doesn't have good personal hygiene and smells bad, right? It is going to be the same thing for the scent. Although the scent is good, the fragrance is good, but a subtle scent allows you to project an image of someone who's confident, and someone subconsciously, obviously, to other people, and someone who respects other people's, you know, the space that they're around you.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, me too.
I love that. There are thousands of products out there. Every brand claims to be clean, clinical, or the best. It's impossible to know who to trust. At Boutique Skin Envie, we do the work for you. We don't carry everything. We curate only the brands and products that are science-backed, results-driven, that we love and feel are truly worth your skin and your money. No paid placements, no hype, no guessing, just skincare you can trust, with real guidance from people who actually care. Use code SkinTalks15 at beskinenvie.ca. That's BSKINENVIE.ca for 15% off your first order.
So I like the word that you use. Scent projects confidence. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, the subtle part of it projects confidence. Again, going back to every brain perceives and processes a scent differently. You know, if you like cedar wood, I might not like it, or someone else might not like it, right? So confidence is built not through actual scent itself, really. Primarily, it is that somebody who's confident never shouts. Do you get it? So your scent should not project. You should not have a fragrance or a cosmetic you wear that you enter the room and it just takes over everything.
It's very
And-
true.
Like it's a
It's
first.
very
Yeah,
true.
I understand that completely.
And it's very, actually, subconsciously becomes offensive to others, although they don't notice it, but they kind of dislike that you're taking so much of their.
That's what I feel with this girl in university. I was like, why is the whole library smelling like vanilla? You know, and it's like,
Yes,
it almost like you don't even recognize the person, and your first thought goes to the scent, and the person becomes invisible. It's just, and then there's like, I was like, this is annoying. Like, I can't
It
go
is.
anywhere without smelling this
So that's
vanilla.
it. So subconsciously you're annoyed because that
Yeah.
person is taking over your space and she's not supposed to. And that's one part of it. The other part of it is that certain notes also project confidence, right? So in general, regarding of how different brains, you know, process sense differently based on, you know, memories and everything in their subconscious, a scent of, for example, you're going out on an evening, something that's more on the woody side. There's certain notes in fragrances that make, you know, just to give you a brief story, at Lescento Boutique, this summer we had brides to be, something, a market that we never tapped into. So we had a lot of brides to be start walking in as of April.
In your store in Hudson,
in
in your
Hudson.
boutique.
So yeah, so they walked in looking for a unique scent for their wedding night, either for themselves, for her and for him, but the ladies. So we noticed a trend. So once we started looking at the information and statistics, we discovered something, that between 2.5 months period, we had about 6 or 7 brides to be who purchased fragrance from us and they all chose the same fragrance.
Oh, that's
So it's
interesting.
like a sexy fragrance.
So they all chose the same fragrance, and again, this
Wait,
fragrance
which one is it?
is Glow Up.
That's my favorite.
Glow
Yeah.
Up.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Glow Up, and this
It's like
scent,
sexy.
yeah. So Glow Up is has a very strong presence of, again, going back to what I mentioned before, cardamom. And cardamom, so digging back into emotion, you know, you're about to get married and all that, regardless of how happy you are and whatnot, there's also a stress of getting married, just overall life changes and preparing for the wedding and all that. And cardamom plays an important role in calming you down. So if that experience was, you know, that connected, that, okay, this is a note that, oh, on my wedding night, everybody is stressed, you know, walking down the aisle and this and that. So without you knowing it, this is what I believe. That's why 6 or 7, whatever, brides chose all the same fragrance. It has to do with the cardamom, because cardamom is known to have a very calming effect on you, and their
So
brain
psychologically attracted them.
drawn them that this is the state I will be in for my wedding. I want to
very
be
good.
like this.
Bring
I
me
love
some
it. It's
scent.
my favorite scent.
Yeah.
And then you launched a new one actually that I really liked. You launched 2 new ones last year.
Three new ones, yeah.
And there was another one in there that I really enjoyed too, but I
There
can't
was
remember the name.
Rose that you launched.
Yeah, the Rose
and
X,
then
yeah.
there, I don't remember the name of the last
Yeah,
one. What's the
What was
last?
it? What was
Oh, Paradis Brûlée. So that's
Yeah.
a vanilla-based scent.
I think that's the one that I like.
Yeah,
That's a
that
nice
is
one.
very woody and
It's
smoky.
warm. I
Yeah.
find it's got a warmness
Yeah.
to it.
It is, and so that's what it is. So to answer your questions, to your question, it does have an effect on you know, when it comes to confidence. What is a projection of confidence? There are certain notes, if you educate yourself, and, you know, for people who are interested, to understand what notes and then look for that. And obviously notes, a note in a fragrance is a very small piece of a bigger composition, or the masterpiece. So having cardamom or having patchouli in a scent doesn't mean it all only going to smell like that. And then
No,
obviously you
no.
have to choose. There's so many, like rose you mentioned, there's so many different rose fragrances.
Yeah.
You might like one, you might not like other one. So it does, the notes that
Yeah, I have to say that Rose by nature, what my memory is of Rose is not an attractive smell that I would go towards. But your fragrance, Rose,
yeah,
is very nice.
thank you.
Yeah, it's very nice because it doesn't smell like
Old grandma.
It's
roses,
a psychology of thing.
somehow,
There's a
or like-
psychological of like oldness
like
when you smell
pharmacy
rose.
rose.
It's a
like-
psychological thing. So,
Yeah.
for example, her generation, patchouli's making a comeback, but
Patchouli and bergamot.
but anyone in their anyone in their like late 40s into 50s, most people might not like patchouli, because patchouli was very big in the 70s
Interesting.
during the hippie era, and they used to just wear patchouli
too much.
too
it's
much,
like overdone.
so
Overdone.
overdone, and their parents used to wear it, you know, and so yeah, so
Well, there's one thing that stuck with me today about the conversation, because I asked you about confidence and choosing fragrance for confidence, you know, and you're right. Fragrance, confidence doesn't scream in your face. And that's
I
the
love.
thing
Quiet
that you know,
confidence. Quiet
Quiet
it's
confidence.
subtle, you know, when you
Yeah.
meet somebody and they listen and they're not trying to tell you too much about themselves, so you can discover. It's so linked, you know.
I do want to talk about signature scents, because every like people search for a signature. Oh my god,
Signature scents,
scent.
yeah.
Like, why is that so important? Like, what does that mean? Because like you said, the brides come in for a certain night, but I'm sure they have something in their wardrobe that's their signature. And like, what is that?
So it has to do with, it has to do with, you know, how we progress from, you know, just following the trends or what was mass produced to, you know, identity, personal identities. Signature scent is that it's a projection of your personality's facets and who you are. And then this is a subconscious thing. That there's something that I like to mention. The world has become very digitized, right?
Yeah.
Like about 15 years ago or so, there were not a lot of fragrances. A lot of people did not wear as many fragrances 20 years ago. Bookstores started dying. boutique stores started closing and all that is making a comeback.
It is making a comeback.
And
You're right.
the reason is that the world has become so digitized and fast paced, and so many people, we're all living, like just walking here, I was on my phone checking emails, replying to emails, that we have not as humans evolved fast enough. So what's happening is that we still inside have the need, almost your body or your DNA or your just overall being is trying to preserve its senses from being lost. So whether it's a sense of a taste, fine dining, eating well, we have noticed that
It's on the
that's
rise for
growing
sure.
on the rise.
Thank God.
Fragrances, the sense of smell, and then fashion is making a big comeback again.
Connection too. I find like human connection and care.
Yeah.
Even that it's been lost, but I find that there's more and more attention being paid towards that as well.
Exactly.
Even
So it's
just that.
It's our way of preserving those those senses. So fragrance now, when it comes to signature, a part of that evolution in the society, the new generation is also looking for having, just like you see on social media, every person is trying to be different. They're trying
unique,
to they have a better understanding of scent, whether it's in cosmetics or fragrances, and they want to choose something that's different, is not accessible by the masses, and it's something that projects their personality. Not only they like it, but also it suits their personality, but also it projects who they are, right? Like someone who's a dancer, and a certain genre of dancing that she does might think that something very floral and exotic will represent that much better than compared to a jazz musician, where would love to wear something very woody and musky and boozy and leather. Yeah. So people are looking at scents as a projection of their identity, and just going back to the the invisible space. A lot of people don't know it. There's an invisible space between us, and the only thing that fills it is the scent, right? So there's scent communicates with others around you, not only with you but with others around you. So just like your what you wear, you get dressed, this is something that gets processed and categorized right away by your brain, where scent gets embedded in your brain. Deeply. So you, going back to grandma's apple pie story, you might eventually associate the fragrance that you really like with those good memories of apple pie that your grandma baked, right? But you not necessarily remember the color of the couch, or what you were wearing, or what color was the door. So scent is a very powerful thing.
Very powerful.
Signature, people are subconsciously understanding that. To just simplify that answer, is that everyone is looking for a unique scent to be a projection of who they really are and how they feel.
Yeah, I really love that. I think it's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that people are looking for something special. In a way, it's something special, an expression of themselves, which I think we need more of, because we have a very follow culture. A lot of people just do what everybody else says, or they follow trends, which is normal.
Or they want to smell like somebody they idolize, which is so normal.
Exactly.
Which is a whole other conversation, because just because you meet somebody and you love their perfume or their fragrance, when you put it on yourself, it can have a completely different smell.
100%.
Which is, when I was in Italy once, I went to a place where there was like a perfumery. I think that's what they call it.
Yeah.
And the woman was like, take the one that's your favorite and then wear it for like a couple days and see how the scent evolves on you.
Yeah.
Like, let's get into that a little bit, because that also is like going into like, it's say, I really love this scent, and then you want to smell like me, but the scent on you smells different.
Totally
what's
different.
That all about?
Again, the two sides to that. One of them is just overall your skin chemistry. If you're wearing it on your skin, your hormones, the acidity of your skin, your overall well-being, your own natural odor or smell that you have, all that affects and influences how a fragrance smells on you. The environment itself. So now you might smell that perfume on someone in a warm restaurant, where the perfume also is a bit mixed with certain smells of foods, and it's just very pleasant. But that perfume, once you put it on and you're walking outside in the cold, might not be as pleasant anymore, right?
Nice.
So
Yeah.
the environment play in the environment. There's so many different things. So your skin chemistry, all that, the environment you're in, the temperature, the weather.
About your hormonal shifts as well. I'm sure as a woman, as
Oh
you
my
go through your
gosh.
cycles, it
100%.
smells differently.
100%. Cycle of the month, that perfume that smelled amazing might not smell as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's very cool. I mean, I remember when I tried it, like when I left, I was like, "Ooh, that's like a really strong scent." But then I wore it, and I was in, I guess, different environments, I ended up enjoying it. I love how it evolves on like skin. I think that's very cool. How
it's the
your
most powerful
chemistry.
thing, a scent.
Yeah.
It really is, and we underestimate it because it's not a topic of conversation every single day, but it plays a role in how we feel, our motivation levels, our alertness.
Are you supposed to wear it on your skin or your clothes?
You can wear it on your skin or your clothes, doesn't matter. So it's like a lot of people, spread on their wrists and they rub their wrists. I always tell them, do not rub your wrist.
Yeah, so what's that like? And then you go like this.
Yeah,
like,
no.
What's the real way to do it?
Well, you just spray it on each wrest, because you don't
it.
want to be cheap. But reality is that it all started with over-the-counter, salespeople trying to sell perfumes in Europe long time ago, and the perfumes were not like alcohol based and they were oil based, so they made them rub it and all that. And rubbing it actually can also kind of destroy the overall performance of a good fragrance, especially when it comes to niche fragrances.
Well, because it's heating.
Yeah, so friction creates heat. And heat, the first thing that you do, you lose all the, certain molecules, like anything that has to zesty. For example, bergamot. You like bergamot, you mentioned. You rub your wrist, the top notes are going to disappear, right away because of the heat, right? So ideally, perfume is good on your skin. You wear it on pulse points because this is moving and it's one of the warmest points, on each side, on your neck or your, on your wrist, and that is usually for projection. So just spraying that, do not rub it if it's a fine fragrance. And then hair is the best place to wear it for beautiful, like a scent aura, and just having a good projection. Hair is a good place to. Yeah.
I heard was it the back of the neck that I hear, or did you actually spray it on your head?
On your hair. Okay. Yeah.
But like I'm assuming one with not a lot of chemicals, because what if it like changes the color of your hair? Does that happen?
No, I know, but it's true. Like when you think about it,
I've
because
done that before.
you move during
but also,
the day.
like, don't you like radiate heat or something, and then like.
Maybe I haven't heard of the back of the neck, but yeah.
That could just be like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I could have just made that up myself.
Who
knows? Who knows?
That's so funny.
But yeah, that's very interesting. I always just tapped. I never rubbed. I was just like, oh, like you're supposed to go like this. I mean, I don't know.
I never wear it on my wrist.
But you spray it. I mean, from etiquette's point of view too, it's kind of more elegant to spray it on each wrist, and you're not trying to spray it once and save it and
I like that.
spread it everywhere, Yeah.
I think the thing also is not to wear too much either. It's like
you don't want to overpower
too much where you walk and you're like Pepe Le Pew. You walk into a room and you're like
you don't want to, going back to what we discussed before. Just
subtle.
You want to be subtle. You want to be your scent. You want your scent to be discovered.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to shout in people's faces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that. So let's get into fragrances and cosmetics because it all kind of links together. And I imagine that the fragrance, the investment that cosmetic companies make into the psychology of smell and fragrance must be enormous.
100%.
It must be more important than most.
Fragrance plays the most important role in cosmetics, and everything that they choose is based on the fragrance that they choose usually is based on, as you mentioned, all the psychological statistics, consumer behavior, the effect of each note or that kind of a scent. As I mentioned before, bergamot would lift you up, where cardamom would ground you. So they choose fragrances that are best aligned not only with their brand, but for that specific product. Now, when you open a cosmetic, the first thing, again, going back to the scent going directly into your limbic system, the first thing way before it appears on your face as makeup or cream, or how you feel, you touch it, the sense of, touch. You smell it first.
We always
So
smell
the
everything
very first experience you have with a cosmetic is its fragrance. So that's why they pump so much into it, making sure to choose the right the right scent, and it also to create consumer behavior, because having they understand that a cosmetic product, you will use it and it will become part of your ritual. So let's say if it's something that has to do with your evening routine or night before going to sleep, and this is time that you're kind of calming down, cleaning your face and whatnot, and so the scent that they've chosen, it is going to it is chosen based on the fact that they want to also the scent to project that feel, make you feel calm, make you feel happy, make you whatever it is. So over time, what happens that it gets embedded in your brain, and that not only that product that you use, but also that scent becomes a part of your brain. As a consumer, you associate that product with a good memory or a good good experience, and you continue on using that product without knowing it. That the scent is playing such an important role.
Yeah. Do you remember back in the day, like this is a long time ago, but we had a product with a brand called Maricourt, which was a French brand.
The Pure Environment.
No, it was the Orange Energy Cream.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
I used that.
Oh my gosh. That was, I don't know why they stopped that product, because that was a product that people went crazy over because it smelled very much like oranges.
Like
so in the morning,
a ridiculous orange smell, like truly a nice
really
smell.
nice.
So there's something they liked, or
Loved.
I loved it. I used it, right?
Loved. Everybody that used that cream, whether it was a performance cream or not, didn't matter. It was the smell of that cream. You put it on first thing in the morning.
Exactly.
And it woke you up.
Yeah.
Everybody loved it.
Exactly,
And they
yeah.
discontinued it. And I never really understood why they discontinued. Maybe overall, generally, there wasn't a lot of revenue,
Yeah.
but I have a hard time to believe that. And
When I was
see,
younger.
just something simple like that. You wake up in the morning, citrus wakes you up, makes you feel invigorated.
Yeah.
Oftentimes in a massage, they'll give a little bit of citrus right
Exactly,
before
yeah.
as you're waking up from your massage or coming out of your massage. Associates with morning, associates with starting your day and energy, right?
Yeah.
So,
Whereas you can
yeah.
have, like, I remember we were trying some products recently,
Oh
and
my
it was
God.
a spray. I thought I had to like
was
burn my
very
face.
what was
like
the
it was
smell?
the
The smell
worst
was very bad.
smell of my life. And the thing
I'm
is
trying to
that when it's
remember.
on your face, it's like you can't get away from that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, and I sprayed it like I was like, oh, this looks
What
like a
was
beautiful.
the smell? I have to go back and do
Honestly,
some
like,
research.
The worst thing I was
Didn't
I-
align with you, but other people love it.
Other people love it, but I had it on my face. It was a spray, and I was like,
felt like you had
"Get
to take a
this."
shower.
Yeah, it was the worst thing ever. I was
And that
dying.
also plays a role, I mean, when it comes to, cosmetic industry. I mean, what Boutique Skin Envie offers compared to what you go and pick at a pharmacy just to save some, dollars, makes a big difference, because they don't put as much into choosing the
Actives and stuff the same
real
way.
some a scent. I mean, that's why the more high end you go, the more you realize the scents are more subtle, more complex.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find
Yeah.
for one of the things that I've noticed recently is people are asking for scent lists.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're,
a lot
they're, you're talking about being in an overstimulated world and scent contributing to the overstimulation, and the people they want the
But
calmness
I
of
find
no
that like
scent.
in the skincare brands that we carry, a lot of the fragrances that you do smell is like the natural.
Like Biologique Recherche doesn't camouflage any
Yes,
of it, which it
which-
can feel, which you smell some of BR's products. It's actually kind of weird. It smells like yeast.
And a lot of it, like they don't, like brands don't camouflage as much. They use the true scent of what that ingredient is,
Yeah.
which is a lot less like intense of when you're trying to mask it. Because when you add a scent on top of it, sometimes I find that's where you're just
It
like
kills it.
It throws people off.
It
Yeah.
gets because
Which is
now
what's
you're
happening-
composing like a fragrance that is not good, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's where I feel like there's the difference between, like, let's say a very cheap product versus a product that's going for $200.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, the smell feels more authentic and like it doesn't hurt my
I think
nose.
you can smell the difference also between, it's like if you learn how to smell better quality in a way.
Yeah,
The
quality is
same
what I'm trying to
way
say.
food, for example, if you're used to eating a certain type of food, like
You
a
can't,
lot
you
of
can't,
processed
yeah.
food, you don't enjoy it when you have something that doesn't have the massive amounts of salt, because the salt is camouflaging the real flavor of the food.
Yeah.
So you get confused, and you can't actually detect the quality anymore if you're too much in the chemical or like.
100%. So I mean, just
I
to
don't know if that makes
summarize that,
sense, but
it does. It just plays the most important role in cosmetics. We have a scent, not me, but many other men that I know as my friends, that we don't know what it is. There's a certain type of cream that ladies wear. I don't know if it's a body cream or not. I don't know if it's a sunflower smell. There's this scent that was very mass produced and were present in many different cosmetics, and we hate it. And we cannot say we hate it, but we just hate it. We just don't want to see that person next
again.
to us. No, well,
no,
it
but I
smells very
have it
bad.
too. Yeah, I know
don't know.
exactly.
I know what it is.
I think I know what it is. We're going to talk about it afterwards.
Also, yeah, it almost has that very hospital, like chemically or
Too
like
clean.
medicinal, too clean, too
Yes.
floral. I don't know what it is,
Yes.
but they've overused that, and it's
Yes.
just not pleasant.
I know.
So-
I
Not
agree.
sexy.
So in the
No.
invisible space of things, right? If you really look at it, scent plays the most important role, whether cosmetics, even in fashion. Again, people, you dress a certain way, they might not remember in a year from now how you were dressed, but
they
they
remember-
will
yeah.
remember how good you smelled
Yeah.
if you have the right fragrance,
Yeah,
right? So that's the power of scent.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Mic drop.
So interesting. I find it really interesting. But we get used to stuff when we're desensitized to
We
it,
don't,
right?
yeah, we don't look into the invisible space
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
scent flows, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah, he's good. He's been a really good little
I
guy.
want to know, what is your favorite scent?
What do you mean in terms of a composition or just a scent?
Both. Give me both.
To be very honest with you, based on my personality, again, going back to what we mentioned before, that every personality, based on your life experiences
Yeah.
and who you are, you're more drawn towards certain smells. I would say if there's one scent that I would pick over everything that will come to you as a surprise, would be patchouli. But not overly used. I think
Not like the 70s patchouli.
No, I think it's very. This is something that I find that I'm very drawn into. That it offers so much. I mean, from perfumery point of view too. Now, when it comes to composition as a fragrance or anything, I like any scent that is a bit zesty on top, from the top, and then it gets into more a bit green and woody. So that kind of a transition is something
Sounds
that
very
I'm
natural.
something that I'm attracted to. I don't like florals. I don't
Yeah,
like
me either. I don't like fruity either.
anything that is complex. And again, going back to niche fragrances, and that is the they're amazing, great artists out there that create these fragrances. And the idea is to grab something, a scent that is not might not be liked by many, like for example rose, right? And then turn that into something modern and more complex, so that note is present, but now it's presented very well, like
It's like elevated.
in terms of food. I mean, talking about going to just a diner and the same food is made by a 2 Michelin star restaurant served in front of you, is two different experiences,
completely,
right?
yeah.
So that is the idea.
How do you come up with your inspiration to create your fragrances?
Yeah.
Because it's very artistic.
Honestly, it has to do with, there's so many different fragrances, so many different perfumers and artists. I mean, great ones out there. They come as an inspiration, but the main idea behind each, from an artistic perspective, is that you have an idea, and for example, rose. And it was a challenge. So the idea was that there are many rose fragrances out there, and we wanted to create a rose fragrance that is modern, that's also will be liked by the new generation, because a lot of people don't, like you mentioned, don't the moment you say rose, they think of
They're
rose
not like,
petals.
I know, I'm
Rose
freaking
petals.
out.
My grandma's rose water.
yeah,
You know,
no.
or
Yeah.
traditionally in a lot of cultures they use rose water and everything. So the idea came that, okay, how we can make it as a challenge. So you create a challenge for yourself, and the idea was so how would an entire rose garden smell like after the rain?
Like you walk outside
In
and
a
you smell
warm
it.
country,
Yeah.
that you smell
Yeah.
the spiciness of the soil, the rotten wood, the stem, the greens, some other flowers, and all that. So that came as an inspiration, you know. And there are many other, I mean, companies and artists who have done that too. And that's how, just to give you an example, Rosex was formed, you know, that we use that. And there's a very strong presence of Haitian vetiver in the Rosex perfume that we have, but that is part of the composition, right? So the inspiration is that same thing with Paradis Brûlé was a vanilla scent, but we didn't want it to smell like a baked vanilla.
Yeah.
So we wanted a smoky vanilla, and many other artists have done that too. So the idea was to create that, and it starts with.
So, like, were you thinking about the vanilla, for example, walking into an old bar back in the day in Paris, for example, and the wood and the vanilla? Like, did you have
Exactly. Well, the artistic view was that it was more on the romantic side. Now that we're getting actually very close to Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
it's in 2 days. The idea came that what if something very soft, or someone very soft is drawn something very powerful, that together it is, destruction written all over it. And it applies to many relationships that people go through, and they join and they know it's not right and they do it anyways and all that. So vanilla was based on that. So I'm like, what if vanilla falls in love with a log of burning wood?
I love it.
And they
I love
love
that.
they cannot consume it, what they have, but the attraction is so strong that they
There's
do
no-
it anyway.
yeah,
So
there's no
Paradis Brûlé
choice.
means, burn paradise. The paradise meaning the idea of having all that love and the paradise of love and lust and all that. But in reality, it was all destroyed. So what comes out of it is a very haunting smell of, burnt vanilla with the smoky wood and all that together. So
Yeah.
it's almost madness, from an
No, I love
artistic
that, though.
perspective for a lot of people to hear. But ideas come from different directions. Sometimes very simple, sometimes it's just you can be somewhere and you love, as you mentioned, a space that you love that smell, and you're like, how can I create a scent around that? It could be a persona, and it could be just, as I mentioned, something, just a crazy idea.
Yeah, I love it. I love that, though, because I can relate to that.
But I think that's
can
what
relate to that.
differentiates like a niche perfumery versus somebody that's like, okay, we need to produce this and this,
Just
right? Like
mass.
there's a story around
100%,
it, and
yeah.
then that you're really trying to emanate that story through the scent that then your consumer is now also embodying.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if it was a painting, the bottle is your canvas and the
Yeah.
notes are your colors, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's niche perfumes. Each of them, there's an entire artistic vision behind it. Whether they want to disclose what was behind it, what was the idea, that is what it is. It's like you have an idea, and you're not purchasing just a scent. You're purchasing a piece of art, something that someone
Absolutely.
created with passion, and so much went into it. Where designers, it's mass produced, about saving costs, going back to chemicals, the most inexpensive chemicals we can find. Let's produce them, put the cellophane on it, put it on the shelves, and sell
slap,
as many
like
as we
slap
can.
it on a celebrity, and then all of a sudden
Exactly,
it becomes
yeah,
something very
it's- yeah.
trendy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this has been so interesting. Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. It makes me, because I have an artistic side to me as well. I write, so I can really understand that, because it's like sometimes for me when I'm writing, it's because there's conflict.
Yeah.
Or I'm very charged emotionally, and I need to get it out in a way on paper.
express
so
yourself,
is
yeah.
how I express, right? So it's the same. It's all this kind of the same
It's
thing,
almost
right?
the same thing. Yeah,
It's like you get this burning inside your body.
Yeah.
You need to express
To do
somehow
or
and
create
something.
something. We
Yeah.
are made to create. As
Yeah.
humans, we are made to create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
was a
interesting.
great-
Really enjoyed
great
it very
speak.
much. Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
joining us.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you for listening to Skin Talks.
If this episode inspired you, taught you something new, or just made you feel seen, please share with someone you love. And if you believe in thoughtful and empowering conversations that help you make better choices for yourself around your beauty and wellness, please rate and review the show. It helps us to grow our community, and we deeply appreciate it. Because this isn't just about skin.
It's about claiming your beauty, feeling strong, informed, and at home in yourself.
See you next week.